Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another session of Recreating Willingboro. We are excited this evening to introduce to some, and some of you have already met, our new Township Manager, Mr. Dwayne Harris, whom will be with us very, very shortly. So I'm going to read a little bit about his bio, and then I'm going to introduce our panel here, okay? Mr. Harris has a degree in marketing from Seton Hall University, a degree in business administration from Purdue Global, a master's degree in practical theology from Regent University, and is currently working on his dissertation pursuing a PhD in public administration from Liberty University. He has received New Jersey's DCA certifications as a registered municipal clerk and qualified purchasing agent, and as a certified municipal registrar from the New Jersey Department of Health and Human Services. Formerly from Atlantic Highlands, where he resided for 46 years, Mr. Harris was also an elected councilman and member on the Board of Education. He has been employed in municipal government for the past 17 years and was the former city clerk in the city of Trenton. Also the former business administrator in the borough of Berlin, and more recently, the township clerk for the township of Howell. Prior to his work in municipal government, Mr. Harris worked for 14 years in restaurant development and management for several quick service restaurant chains. In tonight's segment, we will learn his vision for the township, what he sees as Willingboro's biggest challenges, and the role he will play in recreating Willingboro. WHYY would like to welcome Mr. Dwayne Harris to Recreating Willingboro. Mr. Harris, welcome, and we're going to introduce you on camera in a moment.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Awesome. Also, we have with us Mr. Will Weston, who is co-owner of the podcast at Better Willingboro. And we have the CEO of Borough TV, Mr. Terry McCullough, and our camera, I want to say hello, Mr. Gary Nelson of CPM Media.
Continuing with the introductions, I am William Weston, a longtime resident of Willingboro. I am the co-host of a Better Willingboro podcast where we talk about all things Willingboro. And it's my personal charge to increase community engagement. And I will pass it over to Mr. Terry McCullough.
Hello, everyone. Terry McCullough here. You know me as the owner and executive producer of Borough TV. I am very excited this evening to be sitting here with our new township manager for Willingboro, and I'm looking forward to hearing more about his endeavors as it pertains to our town. I'm so glad for everyone who has joined on and for those who will join on. We really appreciate you for being a part of this conversation this evening, and we're looking forward to hearing what's going to be happening this year and for the upcoming regarding Willingboro. Thank you so much for joining us.
All right. So we are excited because I don't know that we've ever had a Meet the Manager session before. And if we did, maybe I just wasn't invited. But it's really good to have you here, Mr. Harris. So we're going to begin, I believe, with the first question. Yes? All right. So the first question is, what is your vision for Willingboro Township and how would you recreate Willingboro? We're going to turn the mic over to Mr. Harris.
Good evening, everyone. I'm very honored and happy to be here with the township residents of Willingboro. Before we get into the questions, let me just, I think Dr. Dean pretty much summarized my background in history. So she gave you a good overview of who I am professionally. We can get into some little more personal things as we go through this dialogue and conversation. But first, let me just give you a little overview of what actually a township manager position does. In this particular form of government, the township manager is actually the chief executive officer of the municipality. They are the ones that make sure the municipal corporation functions, the departments do what they're supposed to do, and all of the administrative activities are moved forward in conjunction with the will and desire of the governing body. They serve as the liaison between the township council and really the connection, the bridge between the governing body and the administrative personnel. So that's what a township manager does. Now, as far as my particular vision for Willingboro, I have a very large vision for this community. When I got here, I was actually amazed as to what was hidden in this little gem of a community that is really just a mystery. You know, nobody really, where is Willingboro?
Right.
And there's a lot here. But my vision is really in line with the governing body's vision. As the council, they're the ones who set the vision, the direction for the municipality. And I'm the person that's been charged with putting that vision into motion. They spent a lot of time over the last year or so developing a strategic plan, which is a very critical tool. And it's important because it describes to the community the future of what Willingboro would be, and the future of how the township staff, the council, the residents, the business owners, as well as our partners can support and buy into. It contains very clear objectives and measurable key results as to the Willingboro staff and council, and it's used to inform the residents about recommendations, decision-making processes, and things like that, budgeting. And my vision for the future of Willingboro has to mesh with the governing body's strategic vision for the municipality, because they're the ones who put their confidence and trust in me to bring forth their vision, their strategic plan into reality.
That's good. Mr. Harris, what is one thing that you would recreate about Willingboro?
Recreate. Oh, so when I got here in Willingboro, and it was amazing, the number of people that called me to tell me what a wonderful community Willingboro was. And if I could recreate something, I would like to recreate what Willingboro used to be, but in a modern context. You know, we can't go back to 1960, 1970, but we can bring back some of the things that made this community desirable then and make it just as desirable now.
So as Dr. Dean read your bio, it seems you have quite a history in municipal government. Can you give us a little bit of insight on why you chose municipal government? What's your interest and why?
So before I began in municipal government, I spent quite a bit of time in restaurant development. And I very clearly recall one time my sister, she had just moved into a home in Belmar, and we were at an event in her home, and I was looking on the wall and I noticed there was a lot of family pictures, and I was in very few of them. And I was like, well, I have all these pictures there, but none of me. And the reality was, well, Dwayne, you were just not here. You're always working, and events were happening that I just could not participate in. So it was kind of at that point that I wanted to make a change in my life. And having served as a councilman in the borough of Atlanta, the opportunity came across for me to take a position there. I really went there as the insurance coordinator. And after a few months, the municipal clerk there resigned his position to go take an administrative position in a neighboring town. And the governing body moved me up into that position, which was the very start and beginning of my municipal career.
Well, you touched on this a little earlier, but can you give us, expound on your impressions of Willingboro?
My impressions of Willingboro?
Yes.
Willingboro is a very beautiful community. When I first heard about Willingboro, I was like, well, let me go online and see what Willingboro is about. And I read a little bit about your history as a community. And then my wife and I, we actually took a trip down here to actually see Willingboro. And I was amazed. I was amazed at how beautiful your streets are and your homes, and the residents, how they keep their lawns manicured. And I was like, wow, this is a really nice community. I was like, I could really see myself aligning with Willingboro. We were very excited. As a matter of fact, we actually looked at purchasing a home here prior to me actually being invited to apply for the position. So, all of the stars aligned. And you can say that. I think it's more God and his providence aligned us together for me to be in Willingboro. Willingboro has a lot to offer.
Mr. Harris, why are you a good fit for this community?
Why am I a good fit for this community? For a lot of reasons. I think that my experience, number one, is something that may be unique here in Willingboro. I believe that my disconnection with the community is a benefit because I can bring outside perspective and outside vision that maybe, familiarity breeds what they say, that you can't see what because you've just been in it so long. So a little outside fresh perspective.
So being in this line of business, would you say that having that outside as far as moving our township forward?
I think it has some benefits. I think more important in having the outside perspective is having the fortitude to develop a plan and move that plan forward. I think that is one of the essential elements. Again, like I touched with the governing body's strategic plan, that's kind of serve as the base that which we're going to start building off of.
I know that in this position that you have in Willingboro, there's definitely, I'm sure you can say, a lot of responsibility. So can we talk a little bit about your personal core values and basically how they've influenced your work ethic when it comes to approaching those responsibilities?
Yeah, my we're gonna have to go to church on this one.
That's fine.
Let's go.
My core values are always centered and focused on Christian principles. I'm a man of God and I love the Lord and that is how I like to pattern my life. I believe in right. I believe in just. I believe in ethics. So when you talk about values, those are the things that I'm going to use to guide what it is that I do here in Willingboro. Everything above board with complete integrity, not because you are the ones that have to judge me, but my Heavenly Father will judge me because I believe He had some influence in putting me here in this position.
Amen. Yes.
Taking us to church.
We're
tonight.
church. We're church.
Collection plate.
Hello.
Okay. Well, what are 3 top challenges facing municipal officials today?
That's a good question. 3 of the top issues that face municipalities today are budgetary constraints and decreasing revenues that come into municipalities. Along with that is aging infrastructure and the costs that it takes to maintain these systems that have been in place for hundreds and hundreds of years. And in line with that, barriers to sharing services. New Jersey is one of those home rule states, and they believe that a municipality has every right to govern itself, and that's fine. But I think overall, we can combine services where we can save costs and expenses and still service the needs of residents without having to shoulder the expenses exclusively.
Okay. Yes, and there's another part to the question, which is what actions would you take to ensure Willingboro's town government is effectively prepared to face these challenges over the next 5 years?
So what actions would I take to make sure that Willingboro's town is one of the elements of the strategic plan that the governing body, and it dealt with the core values of the municipality. It was bringing everything back to basics. And what that stands for, it stands for betterment, where we develop and implement relevant, creative, thoughtful processes and solutions that enhance the services and outcomes for the community. Accountability, where we accept responsibility to take ownership for our actions. And inaction and their outcomes to the customers, which are our residents and businesses. There are the services that we engage in with all people that will focus on listening and supporting their needs and anticipating their needs, delivering high quality services for the community. In line with that, there's integrity. We act ethically, we act honestly, and lead by example. Collaboration, where we openly share our ideas and thoughts, work together as community, different organizations to move Willingboro forward. And if we do all of these things, we will have success. So that's what we're looking for, going back to basics, where we end up with success for Willingboro.
Mr. Harris, in the short period of time that you've been in Willingboro, what are some of the challenges that have been brought to your attention, or one of them, and how will you fix it?
There have been a few challenges. One of the major issues, hotbed issues, as you know, has been the trash issue. So we are working on dealing with that. I don't know if you want to get into that now or a little further on. Let's go.
Let's go.
Roll up the sleeves and get right into it.
Let's go.
Yes.
I think that's a hot topic for Willingboro, yes. One of them.
So let me say that, and I'm no means kind of shucking responsibility or ownership, because I'm here now and it's on my plate. Okay. I cannot account for what happened before I got here, but what I will say that there had been some missteps, and maybe that whole process had not rolled out as effectively as it could have been. But that's what started, and we are here now. So what the governing body has graciously done is they have made some dealings with the service provider to do dual trash can pickups. We are providing those services to the residents. We're asking them to purchase the second can, which will be identified with a separate red lid. And if you feel like you need a separate can, then you have the ability to purchase one for $75. And then when everybody gets their cans, then the service provider will go ahead and start picking up the dual cans at the residences.
Yeah, I'm sorry, if you don't mind, will there be a charge for pickup of the second can?
There will be the additional charges will be absorbed by the municipality. So there won't be any specific charge to the resident specifically for.
That's good to know. It's good to know that we're coming to a solution when it comes to that issue, because it's been around for quite some time now.
Right.
As you know, Willingboro, a lot of people like to call it a small town. It's pretty big.
Pretty big.
It has a lot of moving parts.
Yes.
A lot of different departments that come with a lot of staff. How do you plan to keep yourself informed when it comes to the activities of those departments and staff members?
So I don't consider myself an office manager where I sit in my office. I am out and about. I'm out and about in the community. I drive around. I walk around the municipal building and go department to department to talk to my staff, to see and meet. I am having a meet and greet, if you want to call it that, with them later this week and next week, where I'll just sit there and invite a conversation with the staff. What are some of your issues? What are some of your hopes and desires? You know, how would you like to see Willingboro move forward? I'm making myself available to the people who work here in the administration, as well as the residents. I have weekly departmental meetings with my directors, and we go over things that are and things that need to be, because I don't want things to go out to them by word of mouth.
Right.
I want them to hear it from myself collectively in a group, so there is no confusion. And if there is, then we can iron it out and work it out right then and there, so everybody knows how to move forward. And I hope by me doing that, opening the doors and avenues of communication, that they will have better understanding of what their expectations are of me, and I will have clear understanding of what their issues and obstacles are, and then we can work together to make it all smooth for the betterment of the residents.
I think those are very good ways to promote a positive work environment.
Thank you.
Would you say, after saying that, would you say that you would be rather approachable when it comes to people, staff members and their needs? Can they just, reach out to you whenever about whatever?
Yes, I do. I honestly do have an open door policy. And my my door is literally open all day. And people have been coming and going and coming and going for a little over a month that I have been here. Employees, they ask to meet with me. I make myself available to them. I don't consider myself to be the boss.
Right.
I consider myself to be the team leader. And they are the team, I'm the team leader. And we work collectively, collaboratively to do this thing that we call managing Willingboro.
Awesome.
So we're going to mix in a couple of questions from the audience for the attendees as well. Carlton Hughes asked, what types of issues or part of the township process does the township manager address?
Carlton, we address every issue. We address issues from personnel issues to budgetary issues. If there's a barking dog and it's annoying you at 6 o'clock in the morning, those are issues that we deal with. There's a portion of the community that's suffering from a sinkhole. These are the types of things that we deal with on a regular basis, but we also make sure that the grass is cut and the streets are lit and you have enough fire and police and protecting you feel safe in your home. So we encompass all of these.
Okay. Sharon Anderson says there may be programs that you would like to staff, but there are always budget pressures. Will you be studying staffing allocations, and how long do you expect this to take?
Yes. Staffing allocations is something that I am currently going through, being new here in Willingboro. I will share one particular staffing issue is you have paid EMS services here. And there has been some discussion about hiring full-time EMS staffing or to continue to use per diem staff. And I sat down and I met with the public safety director and the EMS director and the human resource director, and we talked statistics, we talked numbers, we talked dollars. And in reality, it would be more economically beneficial to hire the 8 full-time EMT personnel than to continue to have 15, 20 per diems, here's and that. And, because it is the billing that goes along with that will actually offset the costs. And then that would just provide better services to the residents.
Okay. One more from the attendees, and then we'll go back to the questions that we have and go right back. Shirley Dilworth asked, what can be done to strengthen or improve property inspection?
Ms. Dilworth, that is a really important question. And believe me, I haven't gotten there yet, but that's one of the things that is on my plate for the upcoming near future. Property values, everybody wants to maintain property values, and it doesn't help if you do what you're supposed to do to maintain your home and your neighbor wants to be a little raggedy. But it's up to us to make sure that they are up to code. And if the inspectors are not doing their jobs, and we need to evaluate that and make some changes. But it's also up to us to make sure that the residents are doing what they're supposed to do to keep their property up to code. So, we don't want to be punitive. We want to be collaborative and work with them. And I know there are some programs in place here in Willingboro to do that. But ultimately, it's the homeowner's responsibility to maintain and keep their property. And it's our responsibility to make sure that they do.
Thank you.
Yes, our township has been improving on communication, but how will you establish links and improve communications with the community?
Well, before I got here, the communications department was actually housed underneath our IT department. So that's one of the first things that I did was I moved communications directly to my oversight, because I firmly believe that any communication that is going out to the community should come directly from and through the township manager to make sure that it's right, that it's timely and factually correct. So that's one of the steps that I did take in that capacity. We are going to look at some of the services that we have been utilizing to enhance communications. If you've been on the website, you know, there's a new Willingboro website, which was put into place before I got here. So I won't take credit for it, but I will tell you that, you know, looking at the website from the prior, I was like, ooh, it was just bad. So, you know, I'm happy to see that, you know, we have made some progress in that area, but we still have more progress to make. So, you know, we will continue to do so. And then partnering with organizations like yours that can help us communicate with the residents, what's going on, what some of their issues are in venues just like this.
Okay, yeah, so this is a two-part question, and I think this is very important. Some departments in the township have been said to be rude and unknowledgeable. What is your view of customer service, and how can you change the culture and that perception?
I'm very sorry to hear if anybody in the township of Willingboro or any of its visitors have been treated rudely. There's no excuse for that. I've always come from a customer service environment, 15 years in restaurant management and development. Customer service is our primary focus. You may think that we are government employees, but we are here to service the residents of this community, and they deserve our respect. They deserve good service. They need to come into the municipal complex and not wait 10 minutes while so-and-so has a little sidebar conversation, or be ignored at the window while they're standing there waiting for service. These are some of the things that I have witnessed, but these are some of the things that we are addressing as well.
So, Mr. Harris, share a fun fact about yourself.
A fun fact about myself. So I had to think about this, and this is the fun fact. When I used to be very theatrical. Yes. So when I was in 6th grade, our high school play was Alice in Wonderland, where I got to play the part of the Cheshire Cat. And one of the lines from that play by the Cheshire Cat was, if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. And that has been kind of one of the principles that I've used to guide my life. If I don't have any plan of where I'm going, then any road will take me there.
About it. Good stuff. Good stuff. I'm glad to hear you're into theatrics. All right, so questions from the community. What is your role as township manager, which I believe you've answered, and in what ways can the residents of Willingboro be of assistance to you?
Oh, that's great. The best way the residents of Willingboro can assist me is to be engaged. So we can work collaboratively as partners. Believe me, I know what some of the issues are here in the community, but it does no good for us to just get people yelling and screaming, but not really willing to become part of the solution. So that's what I need the residents of Willingboro to do, to educate me on what your issues are. And then if you're able to work with us to help solve those situations.
So I know we talked a little bit about communication, you know, getting the word out to the residents. Do you have a plan for specifying how we can get the word out to the senior citizen community? As you know, Willingboro has a large senior citizen community. We have a beautiful state-of-the-art senior center, which I believe you visited.
Beautiful.
Where Ms. Reva Foster is the director there.
Yes.
And do you have any ideas as far as getting information out to our seniors in a better way?
Yes, so we never want to neglect the senior community, and one of the facts that that I'm just aware of from the U.S. Census Bureau, I believe it's 95, about 95% of Willingboro homes have computers, and out of that, 89% of them have some type of broadband internet. So when you look at it statistically, it's just about in line with the ones that don't are just about in line with the senior population here in Willingboro. So I don't want to say that, well, the only people that do are the non-seniors, but numerically it may look that way. So one of the things that we're going to do with our next newsletter is I understand that they used to publish the newsletter and just leave it at certain locations without the community. We're actually going to mail that newsletter to every home in Willingboro, and we'll continue to do that throughout the year. Now, because of the cost of mailing, we won't be able to do a monthly mailing. That would cost about $75,000 a year in postage just alone. And that would be just excessive. But what I will commit to is making sure that all of those communications are available in the senior center for any seniors that come in can have access to them, above and beyond what we do on our mailings. And then if there are very extreme circumstances that even seniors there can't get to the senior center, if they get in touch with Ms. Reva Foster, I will generate a small mailing list where I would, mail to a finite number of residents, senior residents in their home to keep them informed.
Does the township have a program or policy to provide and support local employment with young and not so young adults? And is there a potential program in development?
I don't know that there are any policies or programs that are currently in place. I haven't seen any, but we are not adverse to working with young people and seniors to provide them something to do, as well as fill in some gaps in our needs. We need crossing guards. There are some seniors that work in our security, that man the front desk here at the Kennedy Center. We need a part-time bus driver. I was going into the DPW yard this morning and I was seeing that one of the DPW men was sitting there checking the IDs of people who come in and out of the yard. A position like that could be filled part-time by a senior citizen. Summer rec programs can be filled with young staff and internships. So there's a lot that can be done, but we just need to identify the opportunities and find the best fits to fill those opportunities. And then they don't always need to be filled by a full-time union, non-union, pension earning individual.
I want to throw out a couple of topics of concern.
Mhm.
Cleaner streets, power and street light outages along Van Skyver Parkway, trash and litter around the town, additional trash cans, the lack of crossing guards, including on Levitt, Van Skyver, economic development in the township and Willingboro schools. How will you work to improve these things and how will you prioritize?
Well, that's a very broad range of items there. Well, you talk about cleaner streets. I've been working with DPW to get the street sweeper. There's a street sweeper in place, and I believe there's a second one that needs to be repaired and put into operation. Or we've even talked about putting funds in the capital budget this year to purchase a new one. Power and street light outages. I've already had conversations with PSC&G to discuss what we are going to do with the situation here in Willingboro. I know that's another kind of hot topic. And we have agreed to collaboratively meet and discuss, to go around and actually view. A lot of it has to do with the foliage that's grown into the lines and the trees and things like that. And come up with an actual program to replace the lighting in Willingboro from its current form into the higher lumen LED lighting. That's a process and a very costly process, but that's something that we are looking to do and roll out over the long term. I just had a conversation this afternoon with the assistant supervisor in DPW, I believe on Van Scriver Parkway. Right, there's like 23 lights out. So what he is going to do is just have a couple of his staff members come in at night when it's dark and identify the poles and get the pole numbers and then communicate them to PSC&G. And we're really going to have to hold them accountable and keep their feet to the fire to get this done. We can't be ignored. And I think maybe that's kind of happened in the past, that they've talked about it, but it's never been followed up on, and we just got kind of put off to the side. We won't be put off to the side.
So, excuse me, just for clarity, so you're saying the lights that are out are the responsibility of PSC&G, and we just need to make sure that they're held accountable?
Yeah, their lights, we pay the bills.
So Carlton Hughes and a couple of other residents asked if there's a way that they can see what actions have been completed in the vision, a checklist. Is it something that they can also follow?
So that's another very good question. And one of the things that I discussed with our current mayor, Mayor McIntosh, is for her to have a quarterly fireside chat type of conversation dialogue. Maybe this type of venue, or maybe more open to the public, where, she can just sit and talk to the public. This is what needs to be done. This is what we have done. This is what we plan to do. And, that's another form of opportunity for the community to engage and communicate.
Okay. What is your vision for the library?
Wow. I have to tell you, when I first stepped into the library, I was amazed. You have a beautiful, beautiful library. The library is kind of a separate entity outside of the municipality. But Willingboro is very generous in supporting the library financially. I believe it receives over $1 million in revenue, several $100,000 more than statutorily obligated to provide them for funding. I will support the library as best as I can. I know they've been having some maintenance issues over there, and one of the things that I've been looking at is maybe supporting them by providing custodial services, and then that would free up their custodian to do more maintenance things over in the library. The governing body, if they choose to insert additional funds into that wouldn't be another good thing. That's not my decision to make, but I can do things, superficially with personnel and staff to support them in running their operations.
Okay. Before Terry and Will take the next questions, one of the attendees asked, do you have a plan to support our veterans?
Ooh, I personally don't have a plan, but I would tell you, Ms. Reva Foster of the Senior Center and Outreach and Veteran Services, she is primo. You will find no one better than her. And if there are any veterans that need something, that's where they need to go to and communicate with her, and she will hook you up.
Okay.
So Willingboro has a lot of commercial space. I'm sure you've seen commercial spaces here, and quite a few of them are currently empty. Do you have any plans for increasing occupancy in these commercial spaces?
Yeah, we had just had a meeting this afternoon with our planner, and that's one of the things that we talked about. Where is Willingboro going in the future with commercial space? And, it seems like warehouses are the big thing in development, but I don't know that Willingboro is actually suited for a lot of warehouses. You need more retail commercial opportunities here. And the spaces that are here and available really need to be updated to attract businesses. One of the things that we are doing as a municipality, we have put out an RFQ request for qualifications for some marketing, where we're looking for an outside firm to come in and put together a plan to market the assets of Willingboro, to look at what's here, the parks, the programs, the pools, retail space, open space, developable space, and put this out in a nice, wonderful way that would encourage and promote businesses that want to come here, as well as residents who I want to move into that community as well. So, and I will have a discussion, we're planning to have a discussion with our tax assessor, and maybe there's some type of abatement programs that we could offer to landlords to kind of spruce up and modernize their businesses, their properties. So, we'll see.
Okay. Another issue our residents have and tend to bring up at council meetings are the condition of our streets and potholes. What are your short and long-term plans to repair them?
So our short and long-term plans to repair the potholes, on the short term, we have a pretty solid DPW staff here in the municipality. They're very highly skilled. My short term is to provide them with the tools and resources that they need to go and take. Streets get rated 1, 2, and 3 based on their condition. A street in a 1 is really bad, needs replacement. 2s and 3s are a little bit. So they have ability to go ahead and fill in these potholes and take the 2 streets and move them to a 3 street. And that's what we're going to do on the short term. The long term, we are developing a more structured road construction program, working in with our engineers. The New Jersey DOT is very consistent in providing grants and things for road replacement upgrades, but you need to apply for them and you need to consistently apply for them. So we need to work with our engineers to put together these types of grant applications and work with them to develop a systematic plan based on the gradings and ratings of the streets to replace the roads in Willingboro. The worst ones first, and then moving on to the better ones.
A resident asks, Willingboro has an issue with accountability. How will you get the best people to do the difficult jobs at hand? And what will you do with people in positions who are not doing their job?
Yeah, Willingboro government employees, they can't deliver quality services without a wealth of talent, knowledge, experience, and leadership to do, the everyday tasks that need to be done. We can only respond to the residents' expectations if we're performing well as an organization. So we have to identify better opportunities in every aspect of what we do to achieve positive outcomes. And again, the S and back to basics, success. So, we'll measure that success by residents, employees, management, council experiences, department collaborations and effectiveness. And, by having the departments complete projects and tasks that, they'll be called to task for and account for. They've been already tasked to develop SMART plans and goals for their departments, which are measurable. And when a goal is measurable, then you either meet it or you don't, and be held accountable for not.
Second part of that question, can you discuss Willingboro overcompensating employees and the lack of, I think you've addressed the lack of customer service skills already, but can you discuss Willingboro overcompensating employees?
Yeah, we could discuss it.
Right.
I really don't want to discuss it, but we could. You know what? Let's just be real. In the past, there have been people who have been in my position who have been very generous for reasons that I can't account for because I don't know. But what I can say is that any of those past practices have come to an end. People will be paid for the jobs that they perform based on their qualifications, ability, and past performance. You just getting a job. You're getting a job because it doesn't work anymore.
All right, before we go back to Mr. Terry and Will, how would you improve the reputation of Willingboro?
That's part of our marketing plan.
Okay.
And when we get an overall plan together, we need to really make known what's available and what Willingboro is as a community, and spread the word. It's my goal. One of my goals to have Willingboro one of the premier communities in the state of New Jersey. And another, I don't know if you want to call it a fun fact, but a fact. But New Jersey has 565 municipalities, and Willingboro is the 73rd largest in the state of New Jersey. So, when you think about that alone, you're in the top 20 percentile. But how often do you hear about Willingboro in regards to the state? Do you see the governor coming down here to Willingboro to talk to the residents about proposed legislation? Willingboro is a very viable community, and I think it needs to have a presence here in the state of New Jersey.
So as we continue to plan for the future of this township, and we are definitely optimistic that all the moving parts are going to come together and Willingboro is going to continue to thrive and get better and better. Where do you see us in the future? Where do you see us a year from now?
Oh, that's a tough question. That's a tough question. I'm gonna. I will have to defer that.
Okay.
Because I haven't even been in Willingboro through a cycle. I came here in the wintertime. I don't even know what the community looks like with the trees full in bloom.
It's beautiful. You'll see.
That's what I hear.
Yeah.
That's what I hear. But one thing that we would like to to make sure that we bring back is, like, I believe that you had a very huge jazz fest.
Yes.
And that's something that we inserted into this year's budget to bring back to Willingboro. So I think that's where I see Willingboro in a year from now is more open. Get past this COVID thing where people are able and willing to, again, to be out and about and interact in the community, and to bring a little more communal cohesiveness. And then other areas we'll have to see.
Well, I'm sorry, I had a personal question then after you mentioned the Jazz Fest. Is there monies in the budget for Juneteenth?
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Yes. And so we need more things to do for the youth and young adults. Is there any plans?
Yeah, we had actually just talked about that a little bit before the session started. And, that's something that being the recreation director, we're going to have to really have a serious one-to-one conversation on as to what the recreation programs are here in Willingboro and how they can be expanded. You have an amazing basketball courts here. You should have winter basketball programs for your youth. You have amazing tennis courts over in Mill Creek Park. You should have tennis programs, soccer programs, all of these things. So we need to really learn how to incorporate those into our municipal services and kind of step away from outsourcing these to private companies that they're profiting from to provide these services to our residents.
Now, you mentioned the Jazz Fest, you mentioned Juneteenth. Do you believe that the township would be open to possibly hosting a multicultural event in the future?
Well, it's one of the things that I thought about, but I won't say that in the future, yes. In the future, yes. And where I can see that happening? Right at that beautiful old football field right outside of this center. Absolutely.
Good stuff. You have a comment from Martin Knock, the street, and a question. The street lighting is a complicated issue. Are you willing to sit down with the committee of residents to discuss how to make the lights the backbone of a smart city concept?
Absolutely. It's your former Mayor Knox. Yes. And I've already agreed to meet with you, Mayor, to discuss that issue. So once again, yes, I will.
All right. And then Edmund Walker would like to know, how can you work with the school district to improve its reputation?
Again, that's something that's going to have to be, we'll have to have a collaborative discussion with. I have met the school superintendent, just through email and Facebook, but we really haven't had a dialogue about the needs of the school, keeping in mind that the school board is the school board. So whatever we do, we would have to work collaboratively with them. But we could put some mutual programs and projects together where they would benefit and the municipality would benefit as well.
Ms. Pat Lindsay Harvey says the Kennedy Center is our community center. How can we best utilize the facility? For example, business incubators, recording studio space, etc.
By putting together plans and objectives and moving them forward. Ironically, we had that discussion just before the session started about a recording studio. Maybe there needs to be one here in Willingboro in this facility. Just from what I have experienced so far, I believe that this facility is underutilized. I understand that a lot of it has to do with COVID, and that's fine. But we really need to evaluate that and how we can take the available space and make it viable for businesses to come and utilize, programs to come and utilize, as well as, a little economic stability to support itself fiscally.
Carlton Hughes says, when you talk about a premier community, what does that look like? And how do you ensure services remain affordable?
Well, what a premier community looks like is purely objective. What I may consider to be a premier community, someone else may not. But one of the things that we can do to make it affordable is just by being fiscally responsible, not wasting money, making sure that the services that we pay for, that we receive, and not having to do projects over and over again because, well, it wasn't done right the first time. So these are some of the things that we can do to make it affordable.
When will the improvements of the JFK Recreation Community Center continue?
We have allotted some money in our capital budgets for this year to move forwards with some of the improvements. One of the things was the JFK Auditorium. It's a beautiful facility. I do know a little bit about the history, but I think that's a project that's probably been sitting around stagnant for a little bit longer than it should have been. And I think that will be a critical element in the revitalization, or if that's the right word, the resubrance of this facility.
I know we touched on this a little bit earlier, but do we have a specific plan when it comes to attracting more businesses into Willingboro?
I don't have a specific plan right at this moment. That's going to be kind of a step-by-step process. And I think we're taking the first step by developing a marketing plan.
Awesome.
One more question from the resident. How do you plan to enforce the ordinance on trucks in driveways?
That's something that is going to have to have a conversation with our inspections department. And, if there are violations, then they need to be dealt with. And, sometimes dealing with it is not pleasant, but it has to be done.
Mr. Harris, another fun fact. Favorite food, favorite outing, favorite music type.
So my favorite food is Swiss cheese, but I'm lactose intolerant, so that causes me some problems. Sorry.
Okay.
So I
A
have
little too personal. TMI.
When it comes to the fun fact, I know you've toured Willingboro quite a few times since moving here and working here. What would you say is thus far, your favorite place in Willingboro?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I don't know that I have a favorite place yet, because I still have not seen the all of Willingboro. But you have a beautiful golf course here. That's not your golf course, but it's still, you have a community with a beautiful golf course, and Mill Creek Park and that little Futura house in there that's in the park. And there's just the Kennedy Center. You guys have a lot.
Yes, yes. And I
Have a
think that's
lot.
part of marketing our town, because there are a lot of places like that that are fun facts to know, the Futura House and those things, having the golf course in our community, but it's just not out there.
Right.
The lakes, you can't forget the lakes.
Yes.
The lakes.
Crystal Lake.
One of the most intriguing, when I was doing my research on Willingboro, I learned that you have 9 parks in which the sections of the township is divided into. And in each park, there was a pool. And one of the interesting things was that all of the streets were named the same letter of whatever that park was. So if you were in Pennypacker, and all the streets were P's. And I was like, wow, that's amazing.
So Pat Love says, we spoke of the condition of the streets. Are there any plans to address the speeding issue and the lack of stop signs?
Well, if there are speeding issues, you can certainly bring them to my attention. More importantly, to the attention of Captain Diggs, who's our acting director of public safety, and we can absolutely address them.
Well, on that note, is there something that you can do or the township can do with speed calming, maybe speed bumps or something in that nature for certain streets?
Yeah, we would have to look at that and see where the issues are. If it's on a county road or a state road, we would have to collaborate with them to maybe implement some type of speed control. If it's on one of our streets, we would have to evaluate that. So I need to know where the problem areas are before we can really talk about putting together a solution.
Ms. Bernadette Davis says, welcome, Mr. Harris. No question, just keep up the good work. I am in support of your vision and cannot wait to work with you as part of the Finance Committee. Tiffany Hodes would like to know the plan for the look of Willingboro, for example, tree cutting, sidewalks, and making it look nice.
Yeah, that's part of the long-term goals. Willingboro needs more sidewalks, especially in certain areas along your parkways to make it a little more walkable. As far as street trimmings, what I've seen now is a bunch of naked branches because it's the winter time. So when the fall rolls around, I really look forward to seeing what that looks like. But again, we have already had discussions with JCP&L and our DPW department to look at those issues and then take some kind of real action to abate any kind of situations that are existing.
One final question from the residents. What is being done about the water quality issues?
The water quality issue is something that's being dealt with the WMUA. I think that it's really important that the residents read the material that the WMUA is putting out, has on their website and is on our website as well. And I don't want to diminish anyone's concern about that, but Willingboro's water is what it has always been. And it was only by an action of the state where they changed their standard that put Willingboro into a non-compliant position. It's not because the water has changed, it's because the state decided they were going to lower their number or raise their number. I don't know what you want to say, to determine, well, what's good and what's not. The federal government has their standard, and they gave the states the options to set their own. And New Jersey's was here, and then they raised it here, which made Willingboro fall into a non-compliant status when the water really hasn't changed.
Well, I just wanted to, I welcome you here, of course. And at the last council meeting, you did something that I felt good about, and that is reviewing our shared service agreements. And it does sound like we're not renewing. Are we not renewing a few?
Yeah, we are not going to renew a shared service agreement that we had in a neighboring community for mechanic services, some DPW support services, recycling coordinating services, because looking at those, they had the potential to drain Willingboro's resources, and were really not revenue for, and it didn't make sense for our community to be in a position where we're going to be supporting another municipality at our own expense and use of our resources. So when you talk about shared services, there has to be mutual benefit. And if there is no mutual benefit, then it just doesn't work. And we're going to look at that regarding our animal control services as well. This was my first year in. I know some of the issues that they're facing, but we're going to see what this year shakes out and then reevaluate it for 2023.
Are there any final questions from the panel? Mr. Harris, thank you.
Thank you.
What are your final thoughts? What would you like to share with the community?
I would like to share with the residents and that something new in 2022. I think that's the theme that the council has adopted for itself, and that's very true. It's a new day in Willingboro, and I truly believe that the residents have a lot of positive things to look forward to, and we're going to take this community to the next level.
Very good. Thank you all for joining us. Subscribe www.whyy.org or Borough TV Live. And we will definitely share more information, and we look forward to having Mr. Harris here in Willingboro. We look forward to something new in 2022, and we will support you 100%.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all for attending, and have a great night.
Good night.